welcome back to video. I'm just kidding. That's Tim Rogers' thing.
Start over.
Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we talk about Twin Peaks. I'm Madeline Ferguson Webbin.
I'm Elias Sailor Bob Warren.
I'm the arm, and I sound like this. I can't actually remember what
it's like.
That's it.
Terrible sound. Well, no,
it is.
That's in season 3.
David
In
Bernard
Fire Walk
Howe.
With Me, he sounds like.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sam couldn't play this week, and me and Eli were just going to do just the two of us talking about Brave Story New Traveler, but then Bernard had the idea that we should just holler about Twin Peaks for a while, so we're going to do that. It'll be largely unstructured, but there is some level of structure to it, because there's a reason why we're talking about it. It's not for no reason. So I'll be starting off with a little bit of a narrative about the last week of my life. But before we do all of that, since this is technically our version of a regular episode, let's go around and talk about everyone's week. First of all, Bernard, we haven't seen you in a hot second on this version of the podcast. So you've had a few interesting things going on in your life lately. Quite a number of them, actually.
Yes, I suppose if you want to hear me talk all about my weeks, you need to subscribe to the Ko-Fi, because I talk about my weeks on Bookclub no Kiseki.
You don't get to know how he is unless you listen to Book Club no Kiseki. That's just the way things are.
Basically, I've been doing intermittent fasting for a week, and I feel amazing. Like, holy crap.
Really?
I feel so good. And it's
That's cool.
Been way easier than I would have expected. And I had some pain in my ankles that was not going away for a couple months. And I was doing the rest and the ice and the compression and the elevation. But it wasn't going away. But I woke up this morning and just completely gone. And I think apparently fasting can reduce inflammation. So I think maybe it was the fasting. I don't know. It's a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. I'm not a doctor.
No. Nothing is a cure-all.
My week's been interesting. My moving in with my partner continues apace. You know how it is when you're moving. You move a couple of your boxes, and then you get where there's only a few boxes left, or whatever, and you're like, wow, look at how clean the place is. It looks so nice and good. But then you go to unpack a box, and now there's shit everywhere, right?
It just explodes.
Yeah, so it kind of compresses, it kind of expands and contracts in waves. So right now we are in an expansion. So it's significantly more of a mess than it was last week, even though we've made a lot of progress towards moving in, which is funny. And the other thing is that we watched, we're stressed out, and neither of us have anything close like a regular schedule yet, because first of all, we were doing a 2-week quarantine before after they moved in. We've been quarantining because they came here from they had some possible exposures and stuff. So it's let's just be chill. You moved across a quarter of the way across the country. Let's chill before we go and hang out with even people in a bubble or anything. So because of that, we have nothing even really close to a regular schedule. So it's just been sometimes we do work on our house, sometimes we sleep and are tired, sometimes we eat food, and sometimes we'll just space out and watch TV, right? So first we watched a 10-episode Netflix food show called The Final Table. Really good food show. When I say food show, I mean a competition show, right? The whatever you call those, reality competition show. It's really good. The gimmick is that they each episode is a different country of the world, and they have to make food that's related to that country's and that culture's cuisine. And you actually learn a lot. I think they do a good job of explaining what the deal is with each country, and what kind of food and all the different terms and a lot of the history, which is neat.
So is it the same chefs each episode, and they just switch out what they're cooking?
Yeah, and then people get eliminated and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. So you got chefs who are they're like, today you gotta cook Japanese food. And this one guy is like Scotch, and he's like, I've never had Japanese food in my entire life. But I'll figure it out. It's called The Final Table. It has a few weird things I would criticize, like as far as like game show design. Like, for example, each week they have 3 losers who are in the losers bracket, and they have to lip sync for their life or whatever, so they don't get eliminated. But then there's also a winner each week. But here's the thing: the winner doesn't get anything. You don't get like a bonus next time to help you. Usually that's like, what's the point of picking a winner, right? But my favorite thing about the show, aside from it having beautiful food photography and lots of great cooks, is that everyone in the show is already generally a pretty established cook. A pretty established chef. Like they own some restaurant, or they've received some level of renown. And that's actually really good, because one thing that really bugs me about these competition shows is a lot of the time it feels like they're making struggling people dance for their money. Like, haha, you're a person who is a poorer person who wants to have a restaurant, but you would never normally be able to do that because of the inequality of our society. But if you go through 10 entire episodes and, debase yourself on camera and are the best ever, then we'll give you like $5,000, some insultingly small amount of money, right? And that always rubs me the wrong way for obvious reasons. So ironically, the fact that it's like, no, they literally don't win anything. All they win is the renown of having won, which is kind of cool. It kind of makes me think about like, if we lived in a better society, that would be all game shows. Right? Yeah. Like, imagine a more utopian society where people are on shows to show off their skills and win, literally just so that they can say that they won, and that we can all enjoy that as a society, instead of it being like, yeah, if I don't get this, then I'll never accomplish any of my dreams, or I'll be on the streets and I'll be poor and stuff like that, which makes me sad. Anyway, point is, it's a good show.
The Scottish guy, you may never have seen Japanese food before, but tonkatsu is just fried pork. Surely a Scottish person can figure that out.
Well, that's one of the things, is that a lot of the cooks find ways to like make it work with what they do know, right? Although it is kind of funny, because most of the countries that they go to, well, maybe not most of them, but sometimes it'll be like they'll be like in Spain, or they'll be in France or England, and the guys who are like from Mexico, every single time they're just like, there's too many spices on this food. The judges, I mean. And it's like, they are making, like, it's just really funny, right? They're like, it's too spicy, or it's too salty, and I'm like, no, I'm sure it's probably a very normal amount of spicy and salty. It's just too much for your stupid European palate. Which is pretty funny. Anyway, good show, would recommend. The point is, that's the only thing we do besides be stressed and tired. And now we've finished that, we've moved on to watching Twin Peaks. My partner had watched a bit of Twin Peaks before. I'll tell you exactly how much they've watched once we start in proper. But instead of continuing, they were like, actually, I'd rather just start over from the beginning, if that's okay with you. I hope that's not too much of a burden to start over from the beginning. And I was like,
no,
babe, this is great. I have no complaints. I will definitely watch every episode of the show from beginning to end. I'll watch the pilot for probably like the dozenth time.
I could watch the pilot of Twin Peaks every day.
The pilot's so good. It works so well on its own as like a movie, even though there's no resolution or anything, just as a beautiful little poetic portrait of a single day in the, a sort of tragic day in the life of a small town. And also a sweetie pie is there. But anyway, so we've been watching that, and it's just so good. And it's the first time that I've watched the show. I just realized it's the first time I've watched seasons 1 or 2 since season 3 came out.
Wow.
So
different experience?
Very different. Very different. I'm noticing actually how many similarities there are instead of just differences.
The differences are very apparent when you're watching.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuities that I hadn't really noticed before, or even directorial or stylistic consistencies, actually, where it's like, even though these things were made 25 years apart and are very different in terms of vibe, they're not totally different. They're very much have a lot of a shared language and stuff. But anyway, The other life thing is I got my second dose of vaccine on Thursday.
Nice.
That's really exciting. I will say, for those of y'all who haven't gotten it yet, watch out for that second dose. It'll kill you. It won't literally kill you, but it is not good. I was like really out for like a day and a half.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Yeah, like it started off as just arm hurty, but then it was like, oh, I'm straight up sick. Like every muscle in my body wants to die and feels terrible, and I just want to lay down and be exhausted and be just feeling like shit for 12 straight hours. So look out for that.
Yeah. I got my first dose on Friday, and luckily, like my arm hurt, but it like wasn't too bad, and it only lasted Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, when I get my second dose, it won't be as bad.
Are you? Mine was Pfizer. What's yours? Yours is Moderna, right?
Yes, we have Moderna in Texas.
Nice. And Eli, what's your vaccine status? Have you managed to get lucky in that regard?
I need to make an appointment still. They opened it up to everyone recently.
I think today.
Yes, that was today. You're right.
California is opening up to everyone age 16 or older, I think, in May. But right now they are significantly opened from how they were before, though, for sure today. Also, my partner got their first dose on a Saturday, which is really good. I think they got Moderna, but yep, I just heard them confirming that they did in fact get Moderna. But yeah, that's pretty much.
Wow, a divided household.
But yeah, that's pretty much my week. We just watched a lot of. We're tired. I was sick. My arm hurt. I watched Twin Peaks. That's it. What's going on with you, Eli?
Basically nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got shows that I'm working on for Final Fantasy, and literally nothing else is going on in my life.
No news is good news.
News is good news. I wish I'm getting to the no news. Oh, one more small thing. Because of reasons, my partner's parents decided. It's their birthday in 2 days, so their parents decided to send us some presents, like birthday / housewarming presents. So the point is, I guess we, but whatever, are now the proud owners of a fucking dope new mandolin and a dope immersion blender.
Oh, nice.
So that's very exciting. Both very lovely kitchen items that I'm excited to use.
What is an immersion blender?
It's like it's a blender, but instead of it being a big cup that you put the stuff into, it's like a stick that you put into the cup.
Oh, that's what those are called.
Yeah, you know it. Very, very good. Big fan of them. Great for curries, all kinds of things. But yeah, so I'm excited
about curry.
Food, so yeah. Anyway, let's. I guess we should still follow the basic form of a normal pod, and also I want to play Twin Peaks music. So
yes,
let's play some music. What music should we play? Maybe just the theme song.
Yeah, I was thinking Falling because it's classic. Yeah, Everybody's going to know Twin Peaks music.
Yeah. Get ready for Angelo Badalamenti, everyone. One of the best Italians to ever do it. I might have to say. And
it's really good music.
His beautiful theme song. Yeah.
There's a number of really amazing Italian film and television composers, aren't there?
They sure are good at it.
Like a disproportionate number, I feel. Good for them.
Twin Peaks is a show that aired in, I believe, 1990, right?
Yes, I believe 1990.
On whatever channel. pilot was filmed, I believe, in 89, or maybe even 88, actually. I believe there was a bit of a gap there. But anyway. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't interrupt so soon, but have y'all seen the alternate ending European pilot?
Oh, yes.
No, I haven't seen that one, but I've heard about it.
It sucks ass.
It does. It's so the alternate ending is so bad.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna make sure that my GF watches that at some point. It's so bad. It's just. I'm glad that it's mostly forgotten because like it shouldn't. It's not like canon or anything. But yeah, it's really bad. But anyway, yeah. So it's just this show. It's a show that is conceived and created by David Lynch, a director that obviously me and Eli and Bernard are all big fans of. At the time, David Lynch was only famous for a couple of things. He had made a bunch of weird art shit, and then he had made his first feature film, Eraserhead, which is
upsetting.
A very upsetting movie.
Don't watch it.
It's just
brilliant.
It's fucked up. I would recommend not watching it in a big, dark theater or while eating food. Watch it in a brightly lit room surrounded by friends, and don't eat food while you're watching it. And that will be very enjoyable and nice, and won't traumatize you for life. Then his next film wasn't his literal next film Dune?
No, his next film was Elephant Man, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He made Elephant Man, which is actually a pretty normal movie. Like, it's really good, but it's pretty normal. And then at some point he made Dune, which I'm always waffling on. It basically owns, even though it also sucks.
Dune was his third movie.
Yeah. He literally was asked by George Lucas to direct Star Wars Episode 6 and said no. That would have been amazing. Which is hilarious. So he makes Dune, and then it got butchered by the studio, but it's still pretty cool. And then he makes Blue Velvet, which is a lot of people adore that film. I actually don't like it that much.
I've said it before. I've gone through this before. I feel like I want to watch it again, and I'll like it more this time. That didn't happen last time. Or I think the time before, but I want to give it another chance. And it's not like I hate it.
Yeah, it doesn't suck or anything. But the thing about David Lynch is funny is that
it.
So that's all this. Oh, and then also he made Wild at Heart, which I haven't seen, but it does star Nick Cage and Laura Dern.
I own Wild at Heart and Eraserhead. My mom gave me those for Christmas one year, and I still need to watch them.
So the thing about David Lynch that's funny
tips for Eraserhead.
Yeah. The thing about David Lynch that's funny is that he was already very, very famous and renowned by the time Twin Peaks came out. But in my opinion, everything he's made after Twin Peaks is better than everything he made before it. I think that by far the latter parts of his career are a lot better.
Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire.
Yeah. Twin Peaks, when I think David Lynch, as much as I respect films like Eraserhead, I'm not thinking Eraserhead. I'm definitely not thinking Blue Velvet. I'm not thinking Doom. I'm thinking Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, Twin Peaks Season 3, Fire Walk with Me, and I haven't seen it yet, but I'll just go ahead and say Lost Highway, because I've heard it's the same shit. I've heard it's very similar to all those aforementioned things. Anyway, so David Lynch, noted weird film guy, gets together with Mark Frost, who is just he's a much less weird, much more normal guy, very talented, very lovely, very, very talented man, but definitely a lot more normal. And he had written he was a TV writer before that. I don't think he made any movies. I think he'd only been a writer mostly for TV, but he's primarily a writer. So they get together to write and direct and conceive a pilot for this show, about a murder mystery in a small town, in the rural Washington. Like most TV shows, the pilot is written and directed by the Frost Lynch combo, and then after that point, you get you have a writer's room full of various writers, and they have a rotating crop of directors. Which I've noticed there's one particular director that isn't David Lynch that has really been standing out for me on this most recent rewatch. I'll tell you who it is once we get there. Whereas most of them are just essentially, they're all just sort of doing a pretty similar style. No shade on them. No shade on them or anything. What?
I looked at Mark Frost's Wikipedia page to see what he did before Twin Peaks, and he was like one of the main writers on at least the first season, I think, of Hill Street Blues, which
that's right. I've never seen that, so I don't know what that is, but I've heard that it's very popular.
Yeah, it's like a really popular and I think really influential big deal TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. So Twin Peaks is one of the first shows to really do the whole, not one of the first shows, but it is one of the notable shows in the development of like TV shows being serial in their narratives, and sort of the gradual shift from episode by episode stuff to more long form storytelling. And anyway, it's great. So me and my GF, my GF is watching it. They got really into it last year, and they watched the first 8 episodes in I think they watched like 5 or 6 episodes in like one night or something like that. And I'm just like, damn. And then they kept going at that pace. So like they watched like 15 episodes in like seriously probably like 48 or maybe 72 hours. And then they stopped on a specific episode, not even at the beginning of the episode, like between episodes, but rather about halfway through. And I'm about to send to y'all the episode, the Wikipedia description of the episode that they stopped halfway through. They'll just take a look at that.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah.
They stopped halfway through that?
Yep.
Maddy, just go ahead and delete that post so that Sam doesn't see it.
Oh, good point. Yeah. So literally, like they stopped halfway through the episode that contains like the one thing you don't spoil about Twin Peaks, the one big spoiler, the biggest, most shocking scene of the whole fucking show, and they were telling me they were giving me like a live like play-by-play while they were watching the whole time, like, oh my gosh, oh I'm reacting in live to the things that are happening on the show, and then they were like, oh no, poor such and such character hanged himself, that's so sad, and I was like, oh god, you're on that episode? And then like 10 minutes later they were like, alright, I'm going to bed. And then they didn't watch any more of the show for 6 months.
What the fuck?
So that's amazing.
So it's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to have finally. We did catch up last night. We finally got there. Or 2 nights ago, actually.
So how far have y'all watched total?
Like the next episode.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's the story, right? And I will say, there's we talked about this beforehand. Probably one thing we're not going to spoil in this show, which is that there's a number of dramatic reveals in the show and a number of dramatic character deaths. But there's one particular character death we're not going to reveal, and there's one particular mystery we're not going to reveal. The mystery is, the big mystery of the whole show, which is who's the big killer. I think it's a really great mystery. It's really exciting to see who it is. We're not going to say it. And then also, I'm not going to reveal the fate of a certain character. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and say it's fair game. That means if you don't want spoilers, you should just leave. But also, I think that any other spoiler besides that isn't really a huge deal. And I would recommend you listen anyway.
And I feel like you can talk about what's great about Twin Peaks without doing too many big spoilers. And also, Twin Peaks is famously, at least in its first 2 seasons, not so much in its 3rd season, sort of a pastiche of soap operas. So, of course, there's crazy twists.
Yeah.
Every episode, there's, like, 5 crazy twists.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's fine that we spoil various things. It's not going to ruin anyone's experience of the show. For example, very early on, you learn that a character's husband 5 years ago died in a tragic boating accident. I don't think you need me to spoil it to understand that was no accident. Someone was up to no good. Like, that's not a fucking spoiler, right? But yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's the deal with this show. Yeah, so that's the only thing we're not going to spoil, and I just thought that y'all would get a kick out of learning the pain that has been the last 6 months of my fucking life. So yeah, I don't know. And to finish the story, this show ran for 2 seasons. The show is all about a mystery, and the way the story goes, the way that the pop culture narrative of this show goes, and I think this is probably pretty much true, is the whole show is like, we're going to stretch out when we reveal the killer, and the creators of the show pretty much didn't really want to reveal the killer too soon. They wanted to kind of like, that's the hook the whole show hangs on. But then the fans were all clamoring like, stop putting it off so long. Please reveal who the killer is. We don't want to wait any longer. So the studio is like, okay, fine. Hey, y'all should probably reveal who the killer is. So they did. And immediately everyone lost interest in the show. Which is like, duh, that was the point. So the show was canceled by the end of that season, right?
And I do gotta say, everything around the reveal of the killer is absolutely masterful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's not like, it was rushed and then the reveal of the killer turned out shitty. It doesn't feel rushed at
all, actually. Yeah.
It is incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, and then so the show ran for a bit longer. And it got canceled in the second season. First season is 8 episodes. Second season is 22 episodes. Big difference. Then a few years later, or maybe 1 or 2 years later, there was a feature film that is a prequel to the show, and it is probably David Lynch's best movie.
It's incredible.
And then literally,
it's really good.
And then literally 25, 27 entire ass years later, they brought it back and made season 3, which is the thing that me and Eli are always yelling about.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy how there's this scene where main character, our hero, everyone's favorite boy, Dale Cooper, is having a vision. And in it,
this is the 4th episode of the original show. Very early on in the show.
Original show. He has a vision where we'll talk about the premise for the show more, but it's about the investigation of the murder of a teenage girl from the town. And in the vision, she says, "I'll see you again in 25 years." And season 3 came out 26 years later.
It was supposed to be a year earlier,
close,
I think.
It was
very fucking close.
Yeah.
It takes place 25 years later, of course.
Yeah.
But it's
and I
just crazy
think
how all the moving parts of getting that made came together to happen like that.
Yeah. And if I recall, they were wanting to bring it back for like I'm sure that ever since it got canceled, they had thought of maybe one day bringing it back. And if I recall, there had been various talks, like, and by talks I mean like David Lynch and or Mark Frost and or other actors would hang out one day and be like, man, what if we brought Twin Peaks back? Wouldn't that be cool? Very loose talks. Had been happening for like a decade. It was a very common thing, like, hey, what if we brought Twin Peaks back at some point? And what I heard is that basically, like, at some point, maybe in like 2012, 2013, something like that, someone, maybe Lynch, maybe Frost, maybe someone else was like, man, I guess there was that line in the first season about 25 years, huh? Man, that really would... I mean, if there is a time to bring this show back, now would be the time. And then I do think that they started making it. They actually started writing and starting pre-production on it like in like 2014 or something. So like it actually was pretty fucking close. And then development. You never know how long it's going to take to make. So it ended up airing in 2017, which meant it was either 27 or 26 years after the original show's airing. I don't remember when the show originally aired, so like close enough. But yeah, but so it wasn't a total coincidence. Like that was part of why they were like, oh shit, it really would be cool if we would do this,
Yeah. And wasn't there actually some like significant production difficulties where like at some point like Showtime was being weird, which is the network that it came back on.
Yeah.
And David Lynch was like maybe not going to be involved anymore.
The network that was going to do it 100%. Actually, funny enough, I think Mark Frost and a lot of the actors were on board before David Lynch was involved. But they were like, we want to get him, obviously. And then he was on board. Yeah, basically, Showtime, David Lynch was accusing Showtime of not giving him enough budget or enough creative freedom or enough length, like enough episodes, right?
Which, after you've seen season 3, the idea that Showtime was not giving him enough budget, creative freedom, or time is hilarious.
Yeah, like how much were they giving him? $5?
They ended up giving him a lot of freedom and budget and time.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was a lot of eventually it's some kind of boiling point. The production of the show was actually pretty covered in various news sources. Like, I was following every single development like a hawk because I was excited, right? So yeah, basically at some point, a ton of the actors were like, oh no, Lynch left. Lynch was like, I'm out. I'm not doing it. But good luck, to everyone else. And everyone else is like, if Lynch isn't doing it, we're not fucking doing it. So then I think like 10 or 15 people just quit. And then after that, the negotiations resumed, and eventually Showtime was like, okay, fine. We're going to give you a giant sack of money, and the amount of and you can do literally whatever you want. We do not care, and the amount of episodes is whatever. Which is something you almost never get, right? Which is really cool. And boy howdy, can you tell? Especially the episode count.
He basically, from what I understand, he wrote it as like an 18-hour long movie.
Well,
and then just chopped it up.
Well, I think if anyone else directed it, it wouldn't be 18 hours. I won't say too much about season 3, but I will say it is the number one defining feature of it is that it is cacophonously slow paced.
It's incredible how slow paced it is.
It is like an experiment. It is like a radical experiment of just how slow paced can you possibly make a television show and people still like it? And the answer is, well, more than that, because people still liked it.
I have friends who would not watch The Return because it was too slow. They didn't feel like there was enough payoff. My dad was really frustrated with it for a while, and my mom and I are over here like, they just don't understand.
Yeah. I honestly feel like anyone who watches it today isn't getting the real experience, because if you don't have to wait a week between the fact that the show was
2 weeks between a couple of episodes.
That's true.
Too.
Yeah, the fact that the show is so cacophonously slow paced, and the fact that unlike most streaming shows nowadays, it did in fact drop one episode per week was like excruciating. The idea is that two things: A, the payoff's going to be worth it, and B, in classic Twin Peaks fashion, it's not really about the payoff being worth it, but about the individual scenes being just beautiful and poetic and wonderful for what they are, and not just because you're waiting for the next important plot information to drip off of the slow drip of plot information. I think the show is very much a intentional riff on modern TV show making practices. It's like, no. We're going to frustrate your desire to have any sense of closure or understanding or get the next plot thing so much that you stop caring about that anymore.
What were you going to say, Eli?
Mom and I were jonesing for the show so bad when it was first airing that we would watch the same episodes over and over, like multiple times a week.
I watched some of them multiple times.
Speaking of Jones, I will say I feel like one specific plot line of season 3 is like very specifically a sort of almost a practical joke level of seeing how much you can string along an audience.
Was it episode 12 where the only time that character shows up is to get hit by a baseball and then nothing else?
I don't remember which episode, but I definitely remember noting in that episode that was all that happened.
All that happened. It was amazing.
They'll do things like have a dramatic reveal, and after the dramatic reveal, you're like, oh man, what's going to happen literally what's the literal next thing that happens 5 seconds later for this character? And it's like, I hope you like waiting 3 episodes to find out.
There was also a scene where, I can't remember if it's Jean, right? Or
one of those French Canadian fucks.
One of the Renaults is in the bar, and he's working on the cash register or something, and then there's just a guy sweeping, and it's that sweeping for
scene.
2 minutes.
I love that scene.
I do too. There's a lot of those big, long, drawn out, kind of almost awkward, but also kind of funny that it's been drawn out this much scenes. There's one with Gordon and Diane smoking together on a porch.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And it's just it's funny how awkward it is.
Yeah, so to loop it around, Eli, you said that you wanted to talk about some specific things, right? Actually, we should. Okay, so Eli, you explain it, not me, because you're good at talking. You're good at talking. What is what is this show? And by this show, I mean season 1 of Twin Peaks about.
It is about the murder of Laura Palmer and finding the killer, and shit gets weird real fast.
Yeah. You got a bunch of different characters who are all beautiful, and we'll talk about them in a second, and I think on paper, if I were to describe this show to someone, they'd be like, oh, so it's one of those shows where it's not really about the central plot, but it's about the town. The town is the main character. I'm sure you've heard that about many shows. Well, here's the thing. On paper, yes.
Yeah.
I think that the intentions of the creators of the show were probably to make a show where the town is the main character. But in reality, I think Twin Peaks is the story of Dale Cooper.
I could see that.
Well, it's sort of a love story between Dale Cooper and Twin Peaks.
That's a good way to put it.
So they're sort of co-main characters in that way.
Yeah, it's
about him falling in love with the town despite all its darkness and flaws.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's yes, this is a show that is about all these beautiful, humane, warm characters, or evil, fucked up ones, and the cute little subplots that they have, and the subplots are the main story. But also, it's about, what if you take this world that is a very, I think, realistically beautiful portrayal of just the mundanity and weirdness of everyday life, and then into that world you drop the best boy in the world.
He's so good.
I love him.
Yeah, Dale Cooper is a treasure. We stan him forever.
Played by the inimitable Kyle MacLachlan, who is fantastic. The lead in The Blue Velvet. He's the lead in Dune. Then he wasn't in any other David Lynch stuff except for this and New Twin Peaks.
He was also in the Flintstones movie.
Yes, and people might know him more recently as being, he's in a lot, so it's not like he's underground or anything, but he is, I think, maybe most famously the mayor in the sketch comedy show Portlandia.
He is so wonderful in that show.
Yeah.
Wow, I need to watch Portlandia.
I don't even know if Portlandia is still running or not, but it was the mayor back when that was a big popular show. Huh. Very, very, that show is hit or miss for me, like most, I guess like most sketch comedy shows. Sometimes that show, even when it's objectively funny, the joke is that the characters are annoying, and the problem with humor where the characters are annoying is that they might be so annoying that they're more annoying than they are funny. And I think that Portlandia sometimes has that problem. However, every mayor scene is fucking gold.
Yes.
So speaking of all these beautiful characters, Eli had an idea that we should just talk about specific characters or plot lines that are our favorites. So I think that I know that Bernard knows who my favorite character is, and Eli probably does too. But I want to know who Eli's favorite non-Dale Cooper character is. In the end, let's go with the first 2 seasons.
Okay. Favorite non-Dale Cooper character. Let's see. Audrey.
Audrey's amazing.
She's such a great character.
She's fantastic. She's so fucking weird. Mom, when I first started watching. So, another thing I wanted to talk about was how we got into Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, let me hear.
So when I was a very little kid, I was like 5 when the show came on. I was born in 85. My mom got really into it back then, and I have somewhat decent recollections of her inviting her friends over to watch Twin Peaks with them, and they would always get donuts and have coffee. My mom doesn't drink coffee, but she had the donuts. She doesn't like cherries either, so there was no cherry pie involved. But she basically would hold little Twin Peaks watch parties with her friends. And I have very vivid recollections of falling asleep to The Sound of Falling, which is the theme song to Twin Peaks. So a few years back, it would have been 2016. I told my mom, I know that you're a big Twin Peaks fan. I have been wanting to get into some new stuff. I wanted to talk to you about watching this. And so we were on vacation. We ended up watching 6 episodes in a row together. It was some ridiculously high number. But I really fell in love with the show and the characters, and I binge watched it as soon as I got home. I did kind of I wasn't super invested after the murder was solved, especially because there's a storyline in there that I fucking hate.
Is it the James and what's her name plot?
Yeah.
I
It's
think that
a universally hated scene or a universally hated plot line.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. James is already by no means a fan favorite character.
Yeah. I mean, but he works when he's playing off his whole love triangle that he has going on.
Yeah.
He works there, but when he's off having his own adventure,
not so much. Yeah, so I got into it because of my mom, and that was it too. She actually mentioned to me now is a good time to get into Twin Peaks because the new season is coming out next year, and so I wanted to make sure that I watched all of it before.
So you didn't have to go through just the years and years and years of excruciating wait for that fucking season to come out. You managed to skip over
my
all
mom
of
did that for me.
Yeah. Because I first watched the show in 20. Well, I first watched the show in college, and I sort of watched it in fits and starts. I would date someone and we watched part of it, and then we'd break up, and I wouldn't keep watching it or whatever. Because I still to this day kind of only watch TV socially. I don't really watch TV by myself. It's a very rare thing that I do that. But anyway, I actually watched the entire show beginning to end. Bernard probably remembers in early 2015. Which was before the new show was announced. I don't know when exactly because there was quite a bit of build-up, but I'm sure they were filming it by that point. But I definitely remember that I had already watched the show beginning to end for some amount of, even if it was only a month or two, when it became revealed that there was in fact going to be more of it, which is cool. But at that point, I'd watched the first season and the next 4 or 5 episodes probably 3 times by that point. I just hadn't watched the reveal of the killer and then everything after it. I hadn't watched until 2015 is when I finally got around to it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Bernard? How did you get into it?
I don't remember. I just watched it at some point and absolutely loved it. And my parents and I often talk about things we're watching, and one of us will recommend something to the other, and the other never watches it. But I never recommended Twin Peaks to them. I think they just saw it on our shared Netflix account, saw it under Played, and decided to watch it. They were like, ooh, what's this? A mystery. I'm into mysteries. And they ended up fucking loving it. And they told me they loved it. And I was like, I thought that would be too weird for you. Y'all are such normies.
Wow.
But okay.
Yeah, no, and that's one key of the show's appeal. Really, is that it like I do think it combines. It combines so many different things. Like one thing I'm really noticing on my rewatch is how much it really does have that soap opera influence. And like I know that's like kind of passe, like duh, because the whole gimmick almost is like, what if we combined a police mystery story with a soap opera? Great idea. But like, I mean, the way the scenes are directed a lot of the time, it's like even though these characters have like these characters are really well written, they have lots of depth, they have lots of nuance, but they still act in very exaggerated ways, and you have these very, 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 very overtly cliche setups, and like on purpose, like it's on the nosedly like being cliche, right? So you'll have, so like you'll have the character, what was one of the most recent things where I thought like pretty much everything involving like Josie and Sheriff Truman, for example, is like extremely soap opera, where it's like the sheriff, Sheriff Harry S. Truman, one of my favorite characters in the show. He's really, really, really great. He's not in season 3 because the actor just didn't want to do it. I don't think he was really an actor anymore by that point.
Yeah,
he's
he's
like,
retired.
he's like, I'm retired. Twin Peaks is great, but I'm not coming out of retirement to be that character again. Sorry, which is sad. But in his place, they had everyone's fucking favorite character, whose name I forget. He's
Forrester. What's his first name?
Robert Forrester.
Oh,
one of my literal favorite actors. If you're wondering why I forgot his name, he's my favorite. It's because I forget names all the time, regardless of how much I like. I'm surprised I didn't forget like David Lynch's name. But yeah, Robert Forster is fucking awesome. He's like he's always hired to play like cops because he just looks like one, and I mean that in a good way, which might seem weird. Given
looks like a TV cop
line on cops. Yeah. He's the what do you call it? He was the coach in Friday Night Lights, for example. So he's always being cops. He's always being football coaches. He's always being
ABC, always
being
cops.
classic, being like old timey manly dads. Those kind of characters.
Yeah.
He's great. But anyway, so Harry Truman, he's the sheriff, right, of the whole town. But he has a secret love affair with Josie, who is a immigrant from Hong Kong who is involved in some very, very, very noir-y, pulpy, soap opera-y type shenanigans, right? One of her early lines involves the word shenanigans, which is quite funny. She asks what shenanigans means, and Dale Cooper has to explain it to her, and he explains it in a funny way. But anyway, so there's all these scenes where like there'll be literally thunder and lightning outside, and he'll come into her house, and she'll be like, "Harry, I'm afraid," and he'll be like, "I'll protect you," and then her like mysterious other guy arrives from Hong Kong, and it's like her mysterious brother who no one knows what his deal is, and he's like revealing her deep dark secrets from her deep dark past, and he's like, "I don't care, I love you anyway," and it's just again very overtly overtly soapy drama, and I'm like, this rules. I love this.
You say that's what you consider the most soapy drama part of it, but for me, I sort of feel like, and this is actually a connected plot line, I feel like it's everything with Catherine, which Catherine and Josie sort of scheme against each other, so it's sort of connected, but like she's having all these schemes and machinations, and she's seducing people, and I just love everything with her.
Yeah, I would say that is like, I would say the thing is the show is like, I would say it's like 2 main plot lines plus a bunch of random other shit. Like most of the plot lines are pretty separate. Like the plot of Ed and Norma. So these characters, Ed, Norma, and Nadine, all have a love triangle. And and I guess also Hank. Whatever. The point is, two people are both married to other people, but they're secretly having an affair, and they love each other, and they basically both would be very, very, very well within their rights and human responsibility to leave their relationships, honestly. Both of them are in pretty shitty relationships, but they're both basically just too sweethearted to get a divorce, which is just a really cute. It's cute.
You said they're having an affair and they're in love, but they're not even having an affair.
That's true.
They're just madly in love and just longingly look at each other.
That's true. Yeah, they're
occasionally
very lesbian.
Speak to each other.
It's true. They don't even fuck. They're just yearning at each other the whole time, and they keep being like, "I'm going to leave my husband. I'm going to leave my wife," and then they never do because they would feel bad.
Yep.
So you get a lot of plots like that, right? But then you have the two main plots, which are the murder mystery, and then this whole fucking outrageously complicated, like, fucking, I don't know, Death Note ass battle of wits between these other characters involving real estate. These people own a business, and this other guy owns a different business, but he wants to buy their business and then raise the land and develop that property as a property developer. And then he's always courting all these different buyers. So he keeps courting these buyers like Swedes or Norwegians or Icelanders in order to sell him the property that he does not own yet. For his hot new development. And but like, he's super smart and he's scheming. And then she, Catherine, is super smart and she's scheming. And characters wear disguises, really bad disguises.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the aforementioned mysterious boating accident. There's the, like, various other shadowy figures hiding in the background, pulling the strings. It's this giant fucking stupid clusterfuck that is by far like the sort of big soapy center of the show's stupid bullshit.
And it's great. It sounds like the show would get bogged down in that, but like it doesn't. Just like every scene involving that, you're just enjoying on its own.
Yeah.
And it's just a vehicle for these characters to have emotions and fuck.
Yeah. And I will say, I think season 3 repeats that with its Las Vegas subplot.
Oh, yeah.
I see it as kind of a reconfiguring. Season 3 is a very different show, but it also has a lengthy season-long subplot involving a bunch of weird business people scheming at each other, basically.
One of them is Jim Belushi.
One of them is Jim Belushi, who's extremely good. And also by the end of it, just like with Twin Peaks, all the characters who initially come off as very just terrible, awful people, by the end you kind of just love all of them except maybe one, who is a total piece of shit. But even him, honestly, okay, so one of my favorite subplots. There's this character, Ben Horn. He's one of the biggest pieces of shit ever, basically, in like all of media. He's a really, really, really bad guy. He's very selfish. Probably, I'm saying probably because it's a mystery. He definitely fucks kids. The question is just to what degree he fucks kids and what kids he may or may not have fucked and or murdered. That's the mystery, but it's not a spoiler to say the dude fucks kids. And he's just really bad in every way. Except, and this will be news to my girlfriend if they're listening, to me in the other room doing this, halfway through season 2, he has like a legitimate come to Jesus, not literally Jesus, but like he has a I've seen the light and want to be a better person experience. And after that point, he kind of does change, and it leads to what I think is my favorite of these stupid back half of season 2 subplots.
And it's that subplot of him trying to be a good person is hilarious because both you, the viewer, and all the other characters are like,
Is this really happening?
Is this a scheme?
Yeah, you're like, are you
Is
really
he
trying
trying something
Sure,
here?
surely this is some elaborate scheme, and you're not actually becoming a good person. You're just pretending to be for your own ulterior motives that we don't know what they are, but surely you have one.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, he doesn't. He just actually is trying to be a good person, which is just the last thing you would have expected from him.
So
There's hilarious japes involving a pine weasel.
yes.
Little pine weasel.
So, Eli, you said your favorite character was Audrey. Are we going to continue with people's favorite characters?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to continue or not.
If you have more to say about Audrey, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
She's amazing. She's very, very weird. Mom always said her name should be spelled Oddrey, Audrey.
That's cute.
She listens to some really eclectic music, which I'm on board with. Angelo Badalamenti stuff can get very weird. And I really liked the story that she had in season 3. I thought it was very interesting and tragic.
Yeah, my girlfriend at the point where at the extended mini episode long sequence where Audrey is trapped at One-Eyed Jack's.
Oh my god!
Basically in the show, Audrey is a teen. She's a teenager. So the show does very pointedly let us know that she is 18.
Yes. Yeah.
And
she got a crush on Coop.
Exactly. So anyway, she's a teen, but she's like she's very sexy, and she sexualizes herself. Like, that's part of her character. She's always turning on her seductive charms. But also she's very, very smart, and she basically decides to take it on herself to like be a cool detective girl and figure everything out, right?
Which was not her being smart. That was her being not smart.
Yeah. She is simultaneously the second smartest character in the show, and not nearly as smart as she thinks she is.
She's
naive.
high int, low whiz.
Yes, high int, low viz. Great explanation. So at any rate, the point is she gets in a lot of trouble. She is in a really bad situation for about 6 or 7, at least 4 or 5 or 6 episodes.
Yeah, it's really like
and my
whole nail biting.
And my GF was just like, "Oh, I hate this part of the show so much. I hate it when Audrey is in trouble." And I was like, "Oh, babe.
Oh, boy. You sweet
You're not going to like it. Wait till you get to the entire rest of the show." There's one thing that this show doesn't stop being about. It's Audrey being in trouble.
This is a show about Audrey being in trouble.
In increasingly abstract ways.
Yes.
What they do with her in season 3 is a brilliant. I don't know how to explain exactly what I mean by this when I call something that happens in Twin Peaks a joke, but what happens with her in season 3 is a brilliant joke.
Yeah.
I think a lot of season 3 is. It's going to sound overly reductive, and I don't mean it this way, okay? But like, I do think a lot of the show is, in a sense, trolling. But it's not trolling in like a, I'm just trying to mess with you for no reason. It's like, no, it's like very artful and purposeful trolling. It's we're gonna give you the opposite of what you thought you wanted, but in doing so, we're showing knowledge of what it was that you wanted. Like, oh, this is everyone's favorite character. We're acknowledging that by going in a certain direction with them, or, oh, this is a character that is often not thought of as being important, and frankly, the fact that they are even bothering to put this character in season 3 is stupid. Psych, now they have this like extremely long scene, and you just have to fucking deal with it. But then the joke is that by the end of it, you love that character. That's the joke. The joke is that every stupid idea ends up being a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the Audrey thing is definitely a cruel, vicious joke of a subplot.
All of season 3 kind of, like, in some ways felt like a practical joke on the audience, but that's also just kind of how David Lynch rolls.
Yeah. Though I think it's more over. I think it's more over because it's, well, I mean, think about it. It's kind of hard to play a joke of expectations with someone in the course of a single film. Because
Not that David Lynch can't, because there's a scene in Mulholland Drive, there's a scene in Inland Empire.
Yeah. Actually,
where
you know
he
what? I'm just going to
messes with you.
I'm just going to single this out. Early on in Mulholland Drive, and by this I mean very early on, Mulholland Drive is also sort of it's a mystery movie. It's a movie. The like first scene or something, or second scene or something, is a character who's like going to be murdered or something. Like some people, she's in like a car. She's like in a limo or something, right? And then it turned out that people who are driving the limo are like assassins, and they're going to kill her. So they pull over, and she's in trouble. But then I forget what happens. Maybe like another random car crashes into them or something, and she ends up escaping. Basically, she escapes and she goes down into the town, and that's this inciting incident. So like so it's like, oh, it's a mystery, right? It's typical, very much like Twin Peaks mystery. Who done it? What's going on? All that stuff. So very early on, maybe the next scene after that, maybe pretty early on in the movie, you get a pretty common scene, which is the cops and a detective, played by Robert Forster, at the scene of the crime. And they're like looking at clues and saying, who did this? Where is this? Oh, we found some hairs. And again, Robert Forster, big name actor, everyone likes him. So you're thinking, oh, this is probably one of the multiple subplots of the film. Is going to be these detectives figuring out the clues of the crime, a real whodunit type case. And then those characters never appear for the entire rest of the movie.
Yep.
You get one scene of Robert Forster and some other named characters investigating the crime in a very interesting and captivating and engaging way. And the movie's like, that's it.
This was just 4 years after Jackie Brown, so people still would have been like, "Ooh, Robert Forster, he's in this."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jackie. Yeah, Robert Forster's so good in Jackie Brown. But anyway, so yeah, obviously you can subvert expectations in that way and do little jokey bits like that in this case, over the course of a movie. But it's a lot more easy to do that kind of thing over the course of a TV show, and it's even more easy to do that when you're making a sequel to something after 25 years. Right. So I definitely think that season 3 is the most pointed example of that specific thing that Lynch likes to do a lot. It's not like that's his whole shtick, but that's part of his shtick,
Mm-hmm. So, favorite characters. Maddy, who's your favorite character?
I mean, I always go back and forth. Like, who knows? I love Harry. I love I love Shelley,
They're all so good. Like, even the people who are terrible are they're so entertaining.
Exactly.
The heels are great heels, and the faces are great faces.
Yeah, and I will say, I do really, really love Ben Horn. But I think I can't, in good faith, stray from my true religion, which is that Bobby is the best character in the entire show.
Bobby's so good.
Really?
Bobby is another teen.
So good.
Bobby Briggs.
He's another teen. He starts off as just like kind of a punk ass greaser. And by the end of season 2, I think he changes those of any character throughout the series. I think I would say. He starts off as a punk ass greaser. By the end,
a greaser in 1990.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to do so much better as a human being. He's learned a lot about like responsibility and stuff. He also, though, I don't think he's really changed as a person. It's not like he's a bad person and then becomes good. It's more like he's a total sweetie on the inside, and eventually stops trying to pretend like he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a teenager and he grows up a little bit.
Yeah, he goes up like a little bit, right? And but like at the beginning of the show, there's so many scenes where like there's an early on scene where like he's at the funeral. He's about to go to the funeral, and his dad, who's a very loving, wonderful dad, another fan favorite character. He leans over to his son Bobby, and he's like, "Bobby, like, it's okay to cry. I'm here for you." And Bobby is like, he gets really mad, and he's like, "You think I'm gonna cry? You think I'm sad? Like, what do you think? I'm a fucking baby who cries because he's sad?" And I'm like, yes, Bobby, you're a human being with emotions. You're very sad right now. You are going to cry in the next scene. Your dad's being completely normal, and you're trying to put up this front like you're this tough guy when you are like the farthest thing from a tough guy. And it's so obvious. It's so naked and transparent, like, that he has this big heart, this big ambitious heart of love, that basically anytime he tries to be like mercenary, like anytime he tries, basically, like, a lot of the problems in the show come from him like not being good at like being selfish or self-preservation. Like, he can't be Ben Horn, you know? He can't even be Donna, okay, who it seems like a sweetheart, but she causes, at least she causes one person to get very, very seriously injured and another person to kill themselves. So
Yeah.
she's actually a very stupidly, a sort of sometimes callously indifferent to the consequences of her action kind of person. Whereas Bobby is like, you can tell he's trying so hard, even though he's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. I will have to think on that when next I watch Twin Peaks.
Also,
and there will be a next time.
Dana Ashbrook, fantastic performance.
Oh, he's great.
Fantastically
also,
nuanced performance.
He went gray real good.
Oh, yeah.
Big
he
agree.
is a silver fox. Yeah, I'm into it.
Interesting.
Whereas, I just want to say this real quick. Ken told me Ben Horn looks like discount David Letterman.
That's really funny. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, kind of true.
Remember Jerry Horn's subplot in season 3?
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Remember,
we're being generous calling it a subplot.
yes.
It's a subplot.
So, as for my favorite character, other than Dale Cooper, of course, as is the rule, because everyone's favorite character is Dale Cooper, some small part of me wants to say Major Briggs, but he's just not in enough of the show.
Yeah.
But Major Briggs is really fucking good.
Major Briggs is amazing, but I definitely think, he's not a secondary character. He's a supporting character of a supporting character. Yeah. It's a shame because he is so good.
Major Briggs being Bobby's father.
Now, have you read The Secret History of Twin Peaks?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And that's part of why.
I feel like, I wonder if one reason why Major Briggs is such a major focus of Secret History is because he wasn't able to be in season 3 because the actor died.
Yeah, that would be like, because Mark Frost kind of wanted to expand the lore.
Yeah. I feel like if that actor hadn't died, I bet a lot of that lore shit that is in Secret History may have been more present in season 3 itself,
Yeah, because at the end of season 2, Major Briggs is like he still isn't in the show a whole lot, but he's sort of a pretty important character in some ways, just with the weird stuff that's happening.
With him and Bobby, I love the scene in season 2. This is right before probably Major Briggs' best big monologue, but I'm not going to talk about that.
That scene is so good.
Yeah, he and Bobby are sitting in the diner, and again, like he's a military guy. He does some kind of military stuff, but it's like super top secret classified stuff. So, and he talks he talks like a Coen Bros character. So he's sitting there with his rebellious son Bobby, right, trying to show Bobby that he loves him, and Bobby doesn't, accept it because he's a fucking dumbass teen boy. And he's like, Bobby, can I sit with you? And Bobby's like, sure. And then he sits down, and you can tell he's like, it's a classic, like, I don't know how to connect with my kid sort of moment, even though I love him, because he's just like, because he's literally just like, how was school? And Bobby's like, school's good. How is work? And Major Briggs is like, work is good. And then Bobby's like, so then Bobby actually tries to take the initiative and like maybe connect with his dad a little bit. So he's like, what do you do at your work? And Major Briggs just goes, that's classified.
Yeah.
And ironically, after that, this scene turns into an incredibly powerful and beautiful and moving scene. But like, but even just that part, though, I'm just like, I love it. He's just like, I want to connect with my kid, but when he asks me what I do for work, I can't tell him because it's classified.
He takes his job very, very seriously, and he's very good at what he does. Which,
as we learn, as he ought to. It's important work.
Absolutely.
But I can't call Major Briggs my favorite character because he's just not there enough. So I'm going to have to go with, and this is especially the case after season 3, Gordon Cole.
Yes.
Gordon's so good, especially in season 3.
Gordon Cole, played by David Lynch.
Yeah. Really amazing character.
Screaming.
Really amazing character. He's interesting because I feel like most of the characters in the show, you love them because of how richly developed they are and how they grow and change. Whereas Gordon Cole, he does, but it's much more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's an old guy. He's an old man, right? So I feel like so much of that show is the depth there isn't that he grows and changes. It's that you learn that there's so much history that he shared with the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, remember in season 3 when he and Albert are like out on the tarmac of a airport, and I don't even remember the content of the conversation, but something happens. And David Lynch and Gordon Cole just looks at Albert with like the saddest eyes you've ever seen, where you can tell that there's like so much, I mean, literally decades and decades of history and friendship between these characters. And he's just like, Albert, he says his name like in kind of like a, like, Albert, I'm worried about you. You're my friend and I'm worried about you. And it's so good. Love that guy.
Yeah. Albert is also a great character.
Oh, God.
Speaking of a heel that you end up loving.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. R.I.P. Miguel Ferrer. God.
Yeah, he starts out being just a real asshole, like complaining about the rural culture, essentially, and like... Yeah.
He's a city slicker, and he thinks that all these rural people are idiot bumpkins, and he makes that known in every scene. And
Harry actually decks him at one point because he can't take it anymore. And I don't blame him because Albert was being a real dick.
And that's the thing.
It's fair.
Dale Cooper, literally this country bumpkin, not little country bumpkin, but like this local sheriff who's like way below him on like the authority, chain. Literally decks Albert, who's like a high-ranking FBI guy, and instead of being like, I'm going to arrest you or I'm going to file a complaint against you, Albert is like, Dale, do you see what he did? And Dale's like, yeah, I mean, you're kind of asking for it, dude.
Yeah. maybe get over it.
Albert's extremely good, and again, like one thing that I always think is funny about the show is how many of the characters are like, they're all like, none of them are like Tom Hanks level famous actors, but most of them are actually really beloved like character actors. Like they actually got a hell of a cast. Like the old
Grace Zabriskie.
Yeah, like most of the teens are pretty much total unknowns. But in the normal cast, though, in addition to Kyle MacLachlan, you got fucking Miguel Ferrer. You've got the guy who plays Leland Palmer, is
Ray Wise.
Ray Wise has been in
amazing
so much
performance.
stuff. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think he's also done theater. A lot of theater actors. The guy who plays Ben Horn has been in a lot of stuff in theater. The characters of the guy who plays Dr. Jacoby was
Russ Tamblyn, is that his name?
Yeah, Russ Tamblyn. So, like, 3 of the actors were in West Side Story, the film. Russ Tamblyn and not Ray Wise. I think Russ Tamblyn, guy who plays Ben Horn, and like one other character were all in West Side Story, fucking singing and dancing as like sharks. I think. Also, like 3 or 4 of them were all in RoboCop.
Miguel Ferrer was.
Miguel Ferrer was in RoboCop, and then I think like 2 other ones were in RoboCop. I think it may have been Ray Wise actually. And it's
the guy who plays Jerry Horn was in The Warriors. He's the guy who clinks the bottles together and says, "Warriors,
right,
come out and play."
Extremely famous movie and extremely famous line of film history. Yeah, extremely famous.
That particular line has
moment.
been parodied a ton of times.
Yeah, so like that's, and then the lady who plays Catherine, I will admit I'm not very familiar with her filmography, but apparently she has an extensive filmography. I think I've seen her in one other thing, but I can't remember what it is right now. But she used to be and let's be serious, still is in Twin Peaks, a complete smoke show.
Mm-hmm.
She's hot.
But of course Jack Nance, who had starred in Eraserhead, which was this big cult film.
Jack Nance is also in RoboCop.
Is he?
Yep. That's what I'm saying. It's like these guys are all the kind of actor that you get when it's like, this isn't the main character of the movie, but it's going to be that super lovable, weird, eccentric character that shows up in a couple of scenes and really makes an impact on you. And it's what fills out the movie. I feel like you got a lot more of those, like...
I don't see RoboCop on Jack Nance's filmography.
I might be wrong about that. Maybe I'm getting him mixed up with some other 80s action movie.
Maybe. But I love Jack Nance.
Ray Wise was also
he has
on
the
an
first
episode
line in the series, right?
Yes, he does. Also, Ray Wise was in Gilmore Girls. He had I think he only had like literally one scene, but he was like a major character in one episode. Like he's like a friend of like the like Lorelai Gilmore's mom, like the matriarch, whatever her character's name is. He's like a friend of theirs, and it's like an important subplot in one of the episodes. And I'm like, that's Ray Wise. And I think he even has a little song and dance number. He like sings a song. Dude's got pipes.
Oh man, Piper Laurie, the woman who played Catherine,
that's her name. Yeah,
was in Carrie and tons of other stuff.
Yeah, she's the one actress. She's the one actor in the show that I don't know much about her past, but I know that she's been in so much stuff. Is that everybody?
She was in Saint Elsewhere. She was in an episode of Murder, She Wrote.
Makes sense. That is something she would do.
I wonder if she was the murderer in that episode.
She would be any character in an Agatha Christie thingy. Whether murderer or... No, the only character she wouldn't be would be murderee. She wouldn't be murdered. But she would be a murderer. She would be a detective. She would be a mysterious benefactor. She would definitely be a witness. She would be an unreliable witness. The only role I would see that... The only way I think that she would not feel... The only thing that would be out of place for her in a mystery sort of story would be the victim. I couldn't buy it. If the casting director cast her as someone who gets murdered, I'd just be like, it's just not very... It just didn't seem believable to me that, she would get murdered.
Oh, I love Catherine so much. She's one of my favorite characters.
I would let her murder me.
She's really good. Well, then, now I'm curious who are, I will say, too, we've been recording for an hour and 20 minutes, so I don't know how long you all want this to go.
We can wrap it up pretty soon.
What? Okay. Instead of characters, what are your favorite moments from the show?
Oh my god.
Okay, so one thing. One of the I told you I noticed a lot of similarities between the original show and the new show. One thing I really noticed is how much David Lynch's directorial style actually doesn't change a ton, even though he like again grew a ton as a filmmaker and made a bunch of movies in between. Specifically, I think he only directed 3 episodes in season 2. He directed the pilot or the premiere of season 2, the double length, the dramatic reveal of the killer scene in halfway through season 2, and then the final episode of season 2, which are all amazing episodes.
The final episode is pretty dang David Lynch.
Yeah, but the middle episode there, when you have a big dramatic reveal, is the most actually. It's almost indistinguishable, honestly, from season 3, because it's the thing about season 3's episodes, and also this episode I'm talking about. I won't say what episode number it is, of course, because I want it to be a surprise, right? Is that most of the scenes that are there, it's in the middle, right? It's in the middle of a show. And, like, yeah, it's got 1 or 2 big dramatic scenes, but a lot of that episode is still just character subplots advancing by one plot beat, you know? Like, it's got a scene where, it's just got a lengthy scene of Shelley and Hank talking. No, sorry. It's got a lengthy scene of Shelley and, seriously? Are you fucking kidding me? Norma. Shelley, it's the scene where Shelley cryingly confesses to Norma that she has to quit her job.
Oh yeah.
And it's just again, it's not a dramatic climactic scene. It's just the next step of their plot. And David Lynch put that scene in the show because he had to, because that's where he was in the storyline, right? I'd say a good 70% of the episode is just boilerplate scenes like that. But they are so beautifully directed, and what you really get out of that Lynch style is that the scenes are just so weighty and big and almost play out like little short films. And he doesn't rush it, you know? And he's not focused on the plot beats. He's focused on, like, I'm going to let these characters act. I'm going to let the scene play out in whatever weird, sort of quirky, humane direction that it goes. And it really feels not like a coherent story, because again, it isn't. Like, if you're directing a pilot or a premiere, you have a very clear thing you're doing. You're getting the story started. And if you're directing the last episode of a show, you have a very clear thing to do. You're wrapping it all up. But if you're just directing some random episode in the middle, a lot of your stuff is just a collection of scenes, right? But every single one of those scenes is like this beautiful little short story, and they're lengthy too. It's like 5, 6, 7 minute long scenes instead of like a bunch of little 2-minute scenes that cross-cut constantly, right? And that's how season 3 is. Season 3 is just, in many lengthy stretches in the middle there, just feels like a bunch of scenes. And I feel like with most directors, that's a criticism. Like, I really do feel like I've probably criticized a lot of movies. Like, this just seemed like a bunch of well-directed, touching scenes that didn't cohere to anything bigger than that. But for some reason, when Lynch does that, it's good, and you're there for it. And, like, that's the fucking point, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, look how good The Missing Pieces is, which is literally just a collection of deleted scenes.
That's true. Missing Pieces is literally the B-sides album of Fire Walk with Me, and yet it's so good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because Lynch manages to find so much more tiny little details of humanity and richness and warmth in just people's day-to-day interactions and the way that people talk, the way that people move, that even something as simple as like a shot reverse shot conversation is going to have so much feeling to it that it's okay to essentially just have a collection of scenes that are kind of unrelated. But yeah, when I was watching that episode of season 2, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm watching season 3 right now, which is a very weird feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my answer.
Okay.
Gosh, it's hard for me to think of specific scenes. One thing that just sprang to mind is this isn't one of the best scenes, but in season 3, there's this hilarious scene that's sort of like a pastiche or parody of prestige TV, and he just does it so well.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Starting Position. Was that the
Yes.
scene you're thinking of?
Oh,
That's
God.
not. I thought you were talking about people are under a lot of stress these days.
That scene is
Oh,
also
that's
amazing.
such a good scene.
But the arm wrestling scene in season 3 is
It's so funny.
I think you should explain the scene a little bit more so people can know what you're talking about, because I agree, it's a great scene.
well, basically the bad guy. I won't get into who the bad guy is. The bad guy is meeting up with these bad dudes, and they're like, "Oh, to prove yourself, you're gonna have to arm wrestle this guy." And the bad guy's like, "Is this kindergarten? Nursery school?"
That's the first great. You know it's going to be a good scene when it starts like that.
Yes. So they lead him over to where he's going to arm wrestle a guy, and he just arm wrestles him, and the guy's just like straining, but the bad guy's effortlessly holding his arm in the middle, and he's like, so this is Starting Position. I find this comfortable. Not like here, and he like bends his arm down the way he's gonna lose. But he like bends it down all the way until he's almost lost, and he lets him hang there, and then brings it back up, and then brings it down to where the other guy's about to lose, and brings it back to Starting Position, and he just toys with the guy like that, and it's all ridiculously dramatic and hilarious.
Yeah.
And
feels...
it does not matter at all.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like if the original Twin Peaks is a parody of soap operas and pastiche, let's say, rather, of soap operas, like, then I think it's very reasonable to say that the new show is a pastiche of prestige TV. And that scene is like, yeah, you've seen that show in a bunch of other... you've seen that scene in a bunch of other shows. It's just the bad guy proving that he's the biggest, baddest guy ever, and it's done in the most edgy possible way. And yet, when Lynch does it, it's, first of all, hilarious. And
Yes.
second of all, has its own unique texture.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't want to get into too many details here, but there are scenes surrounding the reveal of the killer, which are probably among my favorite scenes, but I don't want to get too much into that.
Yeah, again, it's like, that's the one thing I don't actually want to spoil.
Yeah. I've seen season 3 more recently, so perhaps it's more on my mind, but the scenes with the log lady in season 3 are so haunting.
God, they are.
They're just so freaky and depressing.
The thing about
and fucked
the
up.
thing about that is that, so basically it's a beloved character from the original run, and in the new show she died before the show aired, but everyone knew that they had put her in the show, and it becomes clear in retrospect that they were like, that she was like actively dying while they were making it, and I guess she
had cancer.
She
or
literally
something
was like dying of cancer, and so every scene, and it's it very much probably was like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of the first things they did with the show. It's like, we got to get these scenes out of the way, right? And it's like, we're gonna write very simple scenes where she is just sitting in a chair and talking, and there's going to be just a couple of them. And that's all we can do with this person who's, again, literally dying of cancer. So they shoot those scenes, she dies, and then, like, just a few months later, the show airs. And so, you have that context while you're watching it, you know? Like, this is this is by far the most famous character this actress has done. It's her defining role as an actress.
And one of the most iconic characters of the show, even though she's very minor.
In many ways, like the main character, not main character, in many ways, like the mascot character of the show, especially when they aired reruns and added her intros, which, funny enough, I haven't seen. I've never got around to it. I don't know. But anyway, So it's like you're seeing her literally like, I'm going to reprise my most famous role and give these like final words before I die. So like you can't get away from that context, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're so good. And most of them are about like how in the original show they were mostly like really mysterious stuff, like weird philosophical musings. In this they're literally just like the whole universe is dark and cold and sad, and the fire of hope is fading. Like, that's essentially all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really weird stuff.
My favorite scenes, I have a couple of them. The first is commonly known as Albert's Path.
Yes.
And it's, God, it's so
what
good.
a great scene.
Sheriff Truman comes and threatens Albert.
Rightly so. Deservedly.
Yes, because Albert's, again, a huge dick. But so Albert grabs him by the coat, and it's looking like it's going to be a brawl, but then he goes into this whole thing about, I may have a really cynical worldview, but I believe that love is the most important thing to have, and I believe in loving everybody. And he even says, "I love you, Sheriff Truman," and then he leaves, and Truman's just standing there fucking stunned. What was it Cooper said? Albert's path is a strange and difficult one, something like that.
That's literally it. He's just like, I'm a pacifist and I reject all violence, and the reason I can do that is love. I love you. Yeah. And he actually hugs him.
Yeah. and it's so sweet. And it's like, that's when Albert like really becomes a fantastic character.
Yeah.
You get to see so much more of him. Like the next time he shows up, he and Sheriff Truman exchange like a super friendly greeting. They hug each other. They're so excited to see one another. Like, shit has gotten better between them.
You know what? A scene that I would not have normally put in my top scenes, but my girlfriend mentioned it as one of their favorite scenes, and so I noticed this time around. Again, it's the Lynch episode in the middle of season 2. At the beginning of it, all the cop characters, Harry, Hawk, maybe Andy. I'm pretty sure there's 5 characters. So it's Harry, Hawk, Dale, Albert, and maybe Gordon Cole, are all standing there in the lobby of the sheriff's office, and they're about to go do a big thing. They're about to go investigate and arrest a guy, blah, 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 blah. But they're all just sitting there literally lined up in the mid-ground of the scene drinking coffee. And that's just it. It's like this lengthy sort of extended, like 30-second, a minute-long shot of them just like chilling in the morning, drinking their coffee, nodding at each other, and it's just beautiful. And it's just like, oh, look at they're just guys being dudes. These guys are just hanging out. And you think of how
what's better than this?
Yeah, and you think of how far they've come. Like from the beginning when they didn't know each other. It's like now these guys are all just total fucking bros.
Mm-hmm.
My other favorite scene is episode 8 of season 3.
Wow. The thing about episode 8 of season 3 is that everyone knows which episode 8 is. One's like, what happened in episode 8? Was that the one with this, or was that the one with that? No, everyone knows episode 8.
Everyone knows episode 8, but they also simultaneously have no idea what happened.
Yeah. Episode 8 is like every episode in the show, or not every episode, but many times throughout the show, even in seasons 1 and 2, you get these like extended little, extremely weird, surrealist bits, like the end of episode 3, which is when he first has his dream in the Red Room. That's probably a 5, 6, 7 minute scene, right? The ending of season 2, the dream at the beginning, the dream envisioned at the beginning of season 2 with the giant showing up, right? Like that's some weird stuff. Lengthy sections of Fire Walk With Me, but yeah, episode 8 is like, what if just like a whole episode was that?
Yeah.
Except also 9 Inch Nails.
Yes, the Nine Inch Nails.
The Nine Inch Nails are also there.
Yes, that's true. But yeah, it's just like, and also like that's that show's version of a lore dump. You know, like that's the closest thing that show gets to lore, and it brings up so many questions, doesn't answer them at all.
No.
And yet, I actually love that scene as well because I think it's the only thing that really addresses. It's the only time that the season really addresses. What I thought were some of the most interesting thematic ideas in Secret History. Just the idea of American history and the secret history of America, really, is what that book should be called, right? Which is the history of the FBI and CIA developing weird experiments, aliens, Cold War stuff, most of which is real, a lot of which is real declassified stuff that the government actually got into. Government experiments on ESP, government experiments about whether or not there are aliens, government chemical weapons developments and secret testing of chemical developments on native populations, and then, of course, the greatest of all, enormous secret government projects, which is the project to develop the atom bomb, right? And how all these things tie together into, like, just America as a place, America as like a spiritual situation. And that episode actually addresses that stuff very, very directly. And the rest of the show doesn't. But the thing is, it's like after that point, it doesn't leave your mind. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also,
Another
a great music video for my boy Christoph Penderecki.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another favorite scenes of mine would be everything in season 3 with Harry Dean Stanton, the least likely character from the earlier Twin Peaks to make a return.
God.
Yes. Yeah, he's in Fire Walk with Me.
He's an extremely minor character in Fire Walk with Me.
If you told me to list from most to least likely which characters I thought were going to show up in season 3, probably the bottom of my list would have been like
Carl.
the Carl, the what do you call that?
I guess he's a landlord?
What do you call that place though?
He's a trailer park owner.
That's the word. I forgot the word trailer park.
Yeah.
Carl, the trailer park owner, who appears in one scene and is disgruntled that Dale Cooper is interrupting his morning. Nope. Turns out he gets. He gets more screen time than Jerry Horn.
Yeah, and he's just. It's a beautiful portrait.
Yeah, it's very possible.
It's just a beautiful pieces of filmmaking about a human, and also in his scenes, like the worst thing in the show happens.
Yeah,
and it's so striking and upsetting and horrible.
And just seeing like how he responds to it, and
and it's after these scenes where you just see him as a human existing and trying to be good. And
pour one out for our
it's like you're seeing the good in the world, then suddenly.
Yeah. I mean, Harry Dean Stanton is one of those actors who, in all the roles I've seen him in, he just looks like the kind of guy who's seen some shit.
Yes.
He's just an old... I never did see the very last movie that he made. It was called... Lucky, yeah, or Logan Lucky, maybe.
No, just Lucky.
Okay, Logan Lucky's a different movie. Okay, cool. I didn't see it. People said it was fantastic, and I feel bad for not seeing it, because boy, do I like Harry Dean Stanton. But he was also in RoboCop.
I just pulled up Lucky, and the Wikipedia description says, the film tells the story of a 90-year-old man nicknamed Lucky and his struggles against encroaching old age. And I'm like, no, old age already encroached.
It has officially encroached.
I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that if you're 90 years old and you're being played by someone who dies, like, months after the movie's being filmed, it is no longer encroaching old age.
It is present old age.
It is encroached old age.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm going to check if Harry Dean Stanton was in RoboCop, because you've lied before.
You're right. I'm wrong about remembering who was or wasn't in RoboCop. There were a lot of beloved character actors in that movie. but also, frankly, a lot of those movies from the 80s and shit.
You might be thinking about the fact that he was an alien.
Okay, yeah, that I was thinking of Alien. Harry Dean Stanton was
and
an
Escape
alien.
from New York.
And Escape from New York. See, it's not that weird that I thought he was in RoboCop. Okay, the Alien one isn't really that much the same, but like Escape from New York, like that is the same fucking kind of movie.
Yeah. But yeah, Harry Dean
Gritty,
Stanton
urban 80s
was
action
amazing.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton is so incredible. And I mean, like, one more thing about that episode in season 2 that made me think, wow, it's like season 3. Fucking needle drops. Season 2, that episode happens in season 2. Like, I'd say a good 60-70% of the episode is set to some kind of music, which is something that season 3 toys with a lot. And I don't just mean the Roadhouse stuff. I mean, like, it does so much. Like when it uses that classic jazz tune, Take 5, in a great scene, or when it uses like My Prayer, which is a classic sort of love ballad from the 50s. I forget who it's by. God. It uses
That's episode 8
beautifully. No. My Prayer is the beautiful scene that we get with Big Ed.
You're thinking of a different My Prayer then.
My Prayer.
Was it also in the original run? Because it was also in episode 8.
Oh, no. I'm thinking of it appearing. It could be both.
Yeah, I think it does appear then.
Oh, it appears twice. Huh.
Yeah. They reuse it.
Those are very different.
I know they reuse it for the scene toward the end with Cooper and the one woman that she's with while they're doing the fuck.
I forgot about that. God damn.
Yeah.
Again, dude knows his needle drops.
Yeah.
Dude drops his needles.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, there's just so many good scenes. Again, we're subplot James and his love affair.
God. I like that subplot on paper. It wasn't until I went.
It was very soap opera.
It wasn't until I went back and watched it for the second time that I was like, "Oh wow!" In my memory, this was a lot better than it actually is.
It's my mom's most hated scene as well.
I would say it's the only actual, like, people hate on the back half of season 2 a lot. That is probably the only subplot I actually think is bad. All the rest of it, I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that's good actually.
I like a lot of it too.
I have to say a scene from the first 2 seasons. That's one of my favorite scenes. I can't just be all season 3. So I'm going to say one of Killer Bob's appearances, specifically the one where I believe it's Maddy sitting in the living room of like the Hayward house or whatever. And he's just walking towards the camera and he crawls over the couch and continues towards the camera, and it's so fucking horrifying.
Well, Bernard, you're actually forgetting that scene is the same scene, aka the back half of the Just You and I scene.
Yeah, which is very silly, but also great.
That's the thing, and that's the Lynch one, right? So like you have this beautiful scene of these beautiful and extremely stupid scene of these teens singing a song together, but then the teen singing a song together smoothly flows into the 3 teens together having a dramatic love triangle drama between them and having emotions, and then 2 of the teens run off, and then it flows directly into them having a sweet little romantic scene together, and then that flows directly into Maddy having a terrifying vision of a demonic killer monster creature. Like, all that is one fucking scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, like, just to talk about Bob a little bit, Frank Silva, the guy who played him, was a stagehand at first. And the whole reason that Bob showed up at all is because he was accidentally captured in one of the mirrors in the first episode while they were filming. And Lynch loved it so much that he just decided to make it a thing.
Well, imagine being Frank Silva and Dave. Like, on one hand, you get to play a major role in the show. But on the other hand, the director is kind of just like, hey, You look terrifying.
creepy.
You look horrible. You want to be the bad guy?
Like, wow, not sure how I feel about that. Like, I'm having a lot of mixed emotions. I mean, I'll do it.
Like, imagine you go home to your
You
wife and
hear
you're like,
Grace
hey,
screaming? That's because of you, pal.
imagine you go home to your, like, maybe he lives with his mom, and his mom's like, how is work, sweetie? And you're like, well, on one hand, I've been cast as a major role in a TV show. On the other hand, the reason I got cast was because I'm hideous and look like shit. And if
He's just scary when you get him at the right angle.
now, I will say, first of all, no
He's
offense
really good at playing
to Fred
creepy.
Silva's friends and loved
Frank
Silva, excuse me, his friends and loved ones. I'm sure he's a lovely human being and probably looks great when he isn't being robbed.
Deceased.
Also, he is deceased, exactly. So he cannot personally be. Well, I was about to get there. So he cannot personally be offended by us saying these mean things about him. But I wouldn't want his loved ones to be offended by the mean things about him.
His many loved ones who listen to the RPG Book Club
Hey, they
podcast.
might. You never know.
If you do, hi.
I'm not afraid to say not great acting in the European pilot.
True.
not great acting from the guy.
Yeah.
Well, he was
I won't
a
hitch that.
stagehand.
That's the thing. He was not a trained actor in any way, shape, or form, and he did an incredible performance for the small scenes where he just had to be fucking horrifyingly scary, and he did a great job.
Yeah.
Better than I would have, and I've probably done about as much acting as he has in his life, which is to say, very little. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
If you are listening, if we have not convinced you to watch Twin Peaks at this point, I mean, maybe we just did a bad job convincing you, but you should really watch it.
It's so
It's the
good.
best show on the goddamn planet. It's so variegated. It's like you're watching multiple shows at once because it does transform so much over the course of its runtime. Something to love
There's
for
so many
everybody.
characters to
So many
love.
wonderful characters to love, whether it's Bobby, whether it's Major Briggs, whether it's Audrey.
Those that you hate to love and those that you love to hate.
Yes, exactly. Oh, who's my favorite love to hate? I actually forget.
Leo?
Dick.
Oh,
Dick.
yeah.
Me and my GF disagree because they just hate Dick, and I love to hate Dick.
I think I'm
Are
on
you
the
still
just hate side.
Are you still seeing this, Dick?
God.
Yeah. Anyway, go watch the fuck out of it. It's incredible. You'll love it. And then we can all together apply pressure on Sam so that he will eventually actually watch it.
It's
Yes,
so
please help us
good.
peer pressure him.
It's not peer pressure if it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
All right, we should
That's definitely how it works.
we should play some music to play it out. I vote. No, we can't play Just You and I. That doesn't make sense. Without the context, it's just a stupid song.
With context, it's either a stupid song or in the context that it's presented in season 3, the most hilarious thing that's ever happened.
Yes.
Yeah. We could do Audrey's theme.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So to wrap this up, I will say one final little fact that people might find interesting contextually is that the thing about the show is the show has a composer named Angelo Badalamenti, very wonderful composer, and he made very interesting, often very strange music for the show. Usually some kind of jazz.
Isn't it just too dreamy?
But the thing is, on a number of situations throughout the show, multiple scenes, the music will be playing over the scene, and then like a person will turn off a record player or will turn off a jukebox, and the music stops.
Oh
and
yeah, it's 100%. Well, not 100%, but it's very diegetic.
Right. So like most of the time, it's not. It's just that a couple times the music reveals itself to be diegetic, which is just funny because no one, like, it's completely unrealistic that anyone in Twin Peaks, that these kind of people would be like you would never hear that kind of music on a jukebox.
It's in the jukebox in the Double R Diner,
So,
and I'm like, why?
So that's what's funny. That's what's funny is like, wait, you wouldn't put that, like, I love the music, but like you wouldn't put that on a jukebox. So what's cute is that because of its use of occasional diegesis, it's like apparently every person in Twin Peaks is the kind of person who has this taste in music. So I'm gonna say that before we play it as a contextual thing. Anyway, thanks for coming with us on this journey. Enjoy this music that, again, every character in this small Pacific Northwest town would love and get their jam on to. And join us next week when we, I should go through the whole thing. This is RPG Book Club. If you like it, you should check us out at rpgbook.club. You should give us some ducats, as Sam would say. And next week, we're going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming of actually talking about Brave Story: New Traveler, chapters 7 and 8. A quick little preview. It gets real good. Chapter 8 fucking whips. So you should definitely play the game and catch up with us. RIP PSN. So yeah, I have been Madeline Ferguson Webbin.
I have been Elias Killer Bob Sailor Bob Warren.
Wait, I gotta redo mine. I've been Maddy. No, I didn't name myself after Maddy from Twin Peaks, though frankly I might as well have. Webbin.
And I didn't know if you were going to go again.
I'm good.
And I'm David Bernard Howe, and I sound like this. Bye.
Toodaloo.
Bye, dorks. How do we stop this?